72 hours. That's all the time Taehyung and Jungkook have before everything changes. Forever. After facing HYBE behind closed doors, the clock is now ticking, and every second feels heavier than the last. Will they stay silent to protect everything they've built? Or finally choose the truth they've been hiding for years? Fans are watching, rumors are spreading, and pressure is building. But one thing is certain. Whatever they choose, nothing will ever be the same again. The next few hours moved differently. Time didn't feel linear. It felt like it was breathing, tightening, watching them. Every minute after leaving the HYBE building carried a weight neither of them could shake. Back at Jungkook's apartment, the silence wasn't awkward. It was necessary. They both needed space to think, but neither wanted to be apart. Jungkook finally broke the quiet. "Do you ever wonder," he said softly, staring out the window, "what our lives would look like if we weren't idols?" Taehyung didn't answer immediately. He walked closer, sitting beside him on the couch before responding. "Sometimes," he admitted. "Sometimes I imagine us somewhere quiet. Somewhere no one knows our names. Just ordinary." Jungkook turned his head, studying him. "Would that make you happier?" Taehyung smiled faintly, not sad, not hopeful, just honest. "No, because I don't want ordinary. I want real." The room grew still again, but this time the silence carried warmth. Jungkook leaned back, closing his eyes. 3 days, he murmured. 72 hours to decide what version of ourselves the world gets. Taehyung shifted, turning toward him, knees brushing against Jungkook's. "The world already decided a long time ago," he said quietly. "They just never asked us." Jungkook opened his eyes. "So maybe it's time we ask ourselves." Taehyung nodded once. "Who are we without the fear?" Jungkook held his gaze. In that moment there was no stage, no cameras, no expectations, just two people tired of playing safe. And yet the fear was still there, not because they doubted themselves but because they knew the world didn't move at the pace of truth. It moved at the pace of reaction. Taehyung reached for something beside him. A small notebook Jungkook hadn't noticed earlier. He flipped through a few pages before stopping. "What's that?" Jungkook asked. Taehyung hesitated. "My thoughts," he said. "All the things I never said out loud." Jungkook blinked. "All of them?" Taehyung nodded slowly. "Every time I wanted to say something and couldn't. Every time I lied and wished I didn't. Every time you were beside me and I felt too much." Jungkook's breath caught, not because he didn't expect emotion, but because Taehyung rarely revealed it so openly. "Can I read it?" he asked gently. Taehyung considered this, then shook his head. "Not yet." Jungkook didn't push. He never did. Taehyung placed the notebook on the table. "When this countdown ends," he said quietly, "I'll let you read the last page. Whether we choose silence or truth." Jungkook swallowed. "And what's the last page supposed to be?" Taehyung looked at him with eyes full of something deeper than fear. Something closer to certainty. "It's the part where I finally stop hiding." Jungkook reached out, lifting Taehyung's chin the same way he had the night before. "You don't owe the world an explanation." Taehyung's voice barely rose above a whisper. "But I owe myself one." The honesty between them wasn't loud, but it was undeniable. Jungkook pulled him closer. Not as an answer, not as a decision, but as a promise. "We'll figure it out," he whispered. "Not as idols. Not as a brand. Not as a story someone else wants to tell." Taehyung closed his eyes, leaning into his touch. "But as us." Outside the window, the city continued unaware. Traffic flowing, lights flickering, life moving forward. But inside that room, time paused. 3 days, 3 chances, 3 outcomes. And somewhere between fear and courage, Taehyung and Jungkook understood something. This wasn't just a decision that it was the beginning of a new version of their lives. One they were finally ready to claim. Night settled over the city with a quiet heaviness. And for a while, neither of them spoke. The weight of the decision ahead lingered like a storm waiting for lightning. Jungkook eventually stood, restless energy pushing him to move. He walked toward the balcony and pushed the door open, letting the cold night air fill the room. Taehyung followed him, stepping outside until they stood shoulder to shoulder, looking down at the glowing city. "It's strange," Jungkook murmured. "Millions of people out there living their own lives. And somehow ours never felt like ours." Taehyung let out a breath that sounded like agreement and exhaustion combined. "Maybe that's the price of being who we are." he said quietly. Jungkook turned to him. And maybe it shouldn't be. Taehyung looked up at the sky rather than answering. Clouds drifted slowly across the moon, soft and pale. When did you know? He asked suddenly. When did you realize this was more than just friendship? Jungkook laughed softly, not because the question was funny but because it hurt. I didn't want to know, he admitted. I tried so hard not to, but there were moments I couldn't ignore. Taehyung glanced at him. Like what? Jungkook hesitated, then let the truth fall. The first time you fell asleep on my shoulder during tour rehearsals. Everyone else saw it as normal, just a member being tired. But I remember thinking, if anyone tried to move you, I would have stopped them. Taehyung's eyes softened. And you? Jungkook asked in return. Taehyung smiled gently. For me, it was the day we filmed that winter shoot, he said. You were laughing at something stupid, something no one else found funny. And I remember watching you and thinking, God, I hope I get to hear that laugh forever. Silence came again, but this time it wasn't heavy. It was full, real. Jungkook took a breath, steady and deep. If we choose the truth, he said quietly, we might lose everything. Taehyung nodded. But if we choose silence, he replied, we lose ourselves. The wind brushed past them, cold but refreshing, like the world itself was listening. Jungkook turned fully toward Taehyung, voice steady. So what do you want? Taehyung didn't rush, didn't avoid, didn't hide. I want a life where I don't have to look at you and pretend I feel less, he said. I want mornings without secrets. I want conversations without fear. I want whatever this is, not in the shadows but in daylight. Jungkook's breath caught, not because the words were surprising, but because he felt every one of them. He reached out, taking Taehyung's hand, slowly, deliberately. And if the world isn't ready? Taehyung stepped closer, eyes unwavering. Then the world will adapt. Jungkook let the smallest smile appear, tired, nervous but hopeful. So that's it, he whispered. We take the risk? Taehyung squeezed his hand gently. We take the truth. Jungkook looked at him for a long moment, really looked, before finally speaking. Then no matter what happens next, we don't run. Taehyung nodded. And we don't apologize. Jungkook exhaled slowly, like releasing years of silence. 3 days, he murmured. And then everything changes. Taehyung rested his forehead against Jungkook's. No, he whispered. It already has. The next morning arrived quietly, but the world outside was already moving fast, too fast. Taehyung woke first. For a moment he forgot everything, the meeting, the deadline, the pressure. All he saw was Jungkook asleep beside him, breathing softly, peaceful in a way he rarely allowed himself to be. Taehyung watched him, memorizing the softness of morning, the quiet before life demanded they be something else. But peace never lasted long. Jungkook's phone buzzed first. Then Taehyung's. Then again, and again. Both devices lit up with notifications, messages, missed calls, email alerts, trending topics. It was unusual even for them. Jungkook reached for his phone, squinting at the screen. The moment he saw it, his expression changed, not panic but something close to disbelief. Taehyung sat up slightly. What is it? Jungkook didn't answer right away. He handed Taehyung the phone. On the screen was a headline from a major news outlet. Rumors explode after HYBE meeting. Taehyung and Jungkook facing internal conflict? Underneath, millions of comments, threads, and fan theories exploded like wildfire. Taehyung's heartbeat quickened. How? Jungkook shook his head slowly. They leaked it. Taehyung stared at the screen, his stomach tightening. HYBE wasn't waiting for their decision. They were controlling it. Before either of them could speak, Jungkook's phone rang again, but this time it wasn't a message. It was a call. From their manager. Jungkook glanced at Taehyung, silence passing between them before he answered. Hello. The voice on the other end was tense. Don't go online. Don't respond to anything. Don't post. HYBE is preparing a statement. Taehyung leaned closer, listening. What kind of statement? Jungkook asked. There was hesitation, too long, too obvious. A clarification, the manager finally said. To calm the situation. Taehyung's eyes hardened. And what exactly will they clarify? He asked loud enough for the manager to hear. Another long pause. That there's no relationship. That the rumors are exaggerated. Jungkook shut his eyes. Of course, Silence wasn't enough. HYBE wanted control. They wanted the narrative before the truth could breathe. No, Jungkook said, quiet but sharp. No, the manager repeated. Jungkook stood, pacing the room as tension bled into certainty. We're not agreeing to a lie. Jungkook, the manager warned gently. This is bigger than both of you. The company can't afford a scandal of this scale. Taehyung stepped in, voice low but unwavering. It's only a scandal because everyone keeps treating it like one. The manager sighed. You don't understand the consequences. Taehyung exhaled slowly. No, he corrected. You don't understand the cost of silence. Jungkook took the phone back. We'll come to HYBE today, he said. We'll talk in person. The manager hesitated but finally agreed. All right, be here in 2 hours. And please be careful. The call ended. Silence settled again, but this time it wasn't fear that it was resolve. Taehyung sat on the edge of the bed, hands clasped together, processing everything. They're trying to trap us, he whispered. Jungkook walked over and stood in front of him, not just as comfort but as a decision. They're trying to speak for us, he corrected. And we're done letting them. Taehyung lifted his eyes. Are you scared? Jungkook didn't lie. Yes, but not of the truth. Taehyung gave a breath that sounded almost like a laugh, small, shaky, real. Then what are you scared of? Jungkook kneeled in front of him, taking his hands. Losing the chance to choose us. Taehyung's throat tightened. 3 days had become less. Time wasn't waiting. The world wasn't waiting. And now neither were they. Taehyung squeezed Jungkook's hands back. Then today, he said softly but firmly, we stop running. Jungkook nodded. And we start defending. As they stood, preparing to walk into the storm again, there was no hesitation and no second-guessing. Only one shared thought. Whatever happens next, they would face it together. The drive to HYBE felt different this time. Not like going to work. Not like showing up for schedules, rehearsals, or meetings. It felt like heading toward a line that once crossed, could never be uncrossed. Neither of them spoke much in the car. Words felt too fragile for a moment this heavy. Jungkook kept his gaze forward, jaw tense, fingers tapping restlessly against his leg. Taehyung watched the city pass outside the window. Buildings, lights, crowds, all unaware of the storm building behind closed doors. When they finally arrived, security led them inside immediately. No waiting. No lobby. Straight to the top floor. The hallway outside the conference room was quiet, too quiet, as if everyone already knew something irreversible was coming. Before entering, Jungkook gently touched Taehyung's sleeve. Last chance to walk away, he said softly. Not a joke, not a test, just honesty. Taehyung met his eyes with quiet certainty. I'm not walking away. Jungkook nodded once. Then they opened the door. HYBE's board members, public relations team, legal advisors, and senior executives were already seated. A large screen at the front displayed screenshots from social media. Headlines, trending hashtags, speculations, grainy airport photos, fan analyses. The kind of evidence only someone inside would have leaked. The head executive looked up, expression unreadable. Sit, he said. They did. A PR representative spoke first. As of this morning, speculation has spread globally. Fan communities are arguing. Brands are contacting us for clarification. News outlets are preparing full articles. If we don't respond quickly, the company risks losing control of the narrative. Taehyung folded his hands in his lap. But instead of waiting for us to make a decision, he said calmly, you forced one. The room stiffened. We did what was necessary, one of the executives replied. Silence was already damaging. Jungkook leaned forward, eyes sharp. No, you didn't want silence. You wanted submission. No one corrected him. The PR representative cleared her throat, scrolling to the next slide. We've prepared a statement denying all romantic implications. It frames everything as misunderstandings caused by fan culture and edited content. We need both of you to post similar personal messages on your accounts. Taehyung blinked slowly. So we're supposed to call our own connection fake? It's not about fake, the representative said. It's about prevention. Jungkook almost laughed, but there was nothing funny about it. Prevention of what? He asked. Honesty. The room grew tense again. A legal advisor finally spoke. If you refuse to cooperate, There may be contractual consequences, sponsorship conflicts, public backlash, even complications regarding future group projects. There it was, the real threat. Taehyung felt something inside him tighten, but he didn't look away. "You're asking us to erase ourselves," he said quietly. "No," the executive corrected. "We're asking you to protect what you built." Jungkook turned toward Taehyung for a brief moment, not to ask permission but to confirm alignment. Taehyung nodded once, and Jungkook faced the room again. "We're not agreeing to the statement." Silence exploded. "You don't understand the fallout," someone snapped. Jungkook spoke calmly. "No, you don't understand the cost of pretending." Taehyung placed a hand lightly on Jungkook's knee, grounding him, steadying him before he spoke as well. "We're not making a public announcement right now. We're not confirming anything today. But we will not lie." The executive at the head of the table leaned back, eyes narrowing. "And what exactly do you plan to do?" Taehyung exchanged a look with Jungkook, one built on years of unspoken understanding. "We'll address it on our own terms," Taehyung answered. "And when we're ready," Jungkook added. The head executive exhaled slowly, not angry but realizing something. Control was slipping. Not because they forced it, but because Taehyung and Jungkook had finally stopped surrendering it. "So you're refusing the scripted denial?" he asked. Both of them nodded. "Yes." The executive closed the folder in front of him. "Then understand this, whatever happens next will be on you." Taehyung didn't flinch. Jungkook didn't look away. "For the first time," Jungkook said softly, "that sounds like freedom." No one responded because the truth, once spoken, didn't need permission. The meeting ended not with agreement but with a shift, something irreversible, something final. As they walked out of the room, shoulders aligned, footsteps steady, the world outside continued roaring with speculation, but for the first time, neither of them felt afraid of it. The countdown wasn't just running. It was becoming theirs.